Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Cooper, and if you are new here, then you won't know this, but if you're returning, you'll know that we are in a new location for this episode. That is because this weekend I have been dog sitting for a family and they live a bit of ways away from my house. And the Wi-Fi is not great there, so I wouldn't be able to film there. But I'm dedicated to the pod, so here I am, in the car. We had to make it work outside of Panera Bread, which I'm gonna eat after this. So we're making it work, guys. You may also notice I got a haircut. My hair's short now. It's so much easier to maintain. And I love it. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. Shout out to my barber. Anyways, I am kind of embarrassed to admit this, but I think I need to come clean. But my whole life until about a week or two ago, I thought that dachshunds, like the dog breed, I thought it was said or pronounced dachshund because of the spelling. The spelling is like dachshund, but I guess I just thought that dachshunds and dachshunds were like two completely separate breeds, but no, like I've just been embarrassing myself my whole life and saying the wrong thing. So yeah, that was a very interesting piece of information that I learned recently. So if you've been saying dachshund, then yeah, you're wrong. And just like I was wrong. So it's okay. Don't feel shame. But anyways, that's the breed of dog that I'm dog sitting. And it's so weird because my whole life I grew up with like huge dogs. So having this little tiny dachshund is so cute and I can carry him around and I just like want to carry him everywhere because I can't carry my dogs around. So it's just like really nice. But anyways, and he doesn't really love being carried around. I don't think he like kind of squirms a lot. So he's probably like, get away from me. Like, please bring my parents home. But anyways, none of that was on the topic of the video, but I just wanted to kind of let you guys in on a little scoop of my life. This is my van. Her name is Agnes, and I'm not ashamed to be driving a van. I bet I can fit more people in my car than you can. So it's nice. She's great. And she treats me well. So I'm loving it. Anyways, I have one more piece of information that I needed to let you guys in on before we get right into the actual topic of the video. So since the place that I'm dog sitting at is kind of far away from my house, I noticed that on the way there, I passed like 3 or 4 roundabouts. And what I'm beginning to find is people don't know how to use roundabouts. And it's really concerning. And I think we maybe need to create like a World Roundabout Education Association. Something of that level because it's not a free-for-all, And I think a lot of people are treating it as such. And we need to stop this because, if you don't know how to use a roundabout, maybe you need to refresh yourself. But when you get there, you have to yield to the people inside of the roundabout already. You don't just go and hope they stop, And I think people are forgetting that. And it's been causing me some scares because I'm in the roundabout and then people are trying to pull out in front of me. And I'm like, you're supposed to yield to me, but that's okay. I just think we maybe need to refresh, We need refreshing our memories of these things. So anyways, that was something that's been on my mind because I've been crossing so many roundabouts lately. I just needed to get that off my chest. And anyways, the real topic of the video is friendship. It's a tough subject, and I know that I talked a little bit about it in one of my other episodes, but I wanted to dive deeper into it and really just give my opinion on it. And if you guys have any different opinions or something that you want to add, feel free to put in the comments. Also in the comments, hype up my new hair, hype up the van, I love to see y'all's comments. It's really fun, and I love what I do. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the most important thing with friendship and community is obviously who. The people we are surrounding ourselves with is so important. We are in the day and age of influence, I'll say. We are influenced by so many things around us on the day to day, but we are also influencing, how we act influences the people around us as well. And I think we need to be aware of that and choose the people who we surround ourselves with so incredibly wisely, because it matters. And it matters so much more than we even recognize sometimes. Like, sometimes we don't know we're being changed by something, but we are, you know? Maybe you have even something small, like maybe you have a fashion item that you used to hate, you used to be so against it, but then all of a sudden it becomes a trend on TikTok or Instagram or something, and you see it, and then you want to fit in, so you join the crowd, and now you're wearing that all the time. You know, things like that, we don't necessarily realize, but we are being influenced. Everything that is being fed to us is influencing us in some way. And we need to be careful about what we allow to change our opinions, because not everything deserves that space in our mind, and not everything is good for our brains, and we need to be very careful about that. You know, in the Bible, it says, guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it. That is Proverbs 4:23, if you're wondering. So it's like, we need to be guarding our heart. We need to be guarding what is coming into our brains, because ultimately it will change us in some way, and maybe that will change how we act. And that's not always a good thing. You know, we need to be careful about that. Now, with friendships specifically, I think it's so, so important that we are examining our friendships. It's important to examine our friendships and see, is this person aligned with the person I want to be? Do I like the person they are? Do they inspire me to become a better person? Do they push me? Do they, those questions are so important. And if the answer is no, then maybe there's some rethinking that needs to be done. And I know that can be much easier said than done, because of course friendships are hard. It's hard, and especially if you've been in a friendship for a long time, it's hard to leave a friendship if it's not feeding you anymore, or if it's not producing fruit. But ultimately it's necessary. It's necessary to, maybe distance yourself from those people if it is going to push you forward and allow you to be the person you want to become. Now, that's also not saying that if someone doesn't align with who you want to be or who you are, that's not saying that you hate them. That's not saying they are a bad person. It's just saying you guys have different goals, and that's okay. You guys have different goals for life. You have different, types of people you want to be, and that's okay. There's a group for everyone, but, not every group is the same, and it's okay to take a step back from it. And another thing is, they don't always have to understand. It's hard. I know it's hard to take steps away from a relationship, but you have to do what's best for you and what aligns with your goals. And that doesn't mean that every single person you come into contact with has to agree with you on everything and has to support your goals for life. I'm not saying that, because we are going to be put in situations in our lives where we don't necessarily have a choice. If you're at a family event where your family is having friends over, and they're people you don't necessarily agree with, that doesn't mean you have to ignore them or go elsewhere. Like, you can engage in that conversation, but what I'm saying is the people who we are spending the most amount of time with, the people who we are allowing into our personal bubbles and letting them see, who we are, they do need to align with who we want to be, because the consequence of having someone who's not aligned is them holding you back, or, making it difficult for you to become that person that you want. And we don't want that. We want people who are going to push us to be exactly who it is that we want to be. And that's so important. We have to be careful who we're hanging around, who we are allowing to have that influence in our lives. Because, it's like the classic saying of, like, we are who we hang around. If you're hanging around people who, are doing drugs and getting drunk on the weekends, like, that may be what they want to do, and they have a group that aligns with those values, but maybe you don't. You need to separate yourself from it. You can't keep hanging around people if they don't agree with your morals or beliefs or things like that. And obviously, no one in this world is going to agree with every single thing that you have, but, the main beliefs, your main morals, you can find people who do align with that. And it's important that you do. And it's important that you make those changes if that's needed in your life. It's so refreshing to have good friends, but it's draining if you have the wrong friends, and especially as an introvert, I think that can be hard because you will be drained unless it's the right people, but I promise you there are people who will love you and care for you, and good friends don't drain you. I've seen this so much in my own life, and as an introvert myself, I don't thrive off of social interactions. I prefer to be by myself. I prefer not to speak to a lot of people, but when I'm around the wrong people, I get drained so quickly, so, so quickly. But when I'm around the right people, I could be around them forever and feel amazing. It's the people matter, and they shouldn't be sucking the life out of you. Your friends should be pushing you and making your life feel lighter. You shouldn't feel heavy. You shouldn't feel worse after hanging out with a friend. That's the reality of it. And if you do, then maybe those aren't the right friends, and maybe some changes need to be made. And I know it's hard, but it's important. It's important for your own life and your own growth to find that. A good example of friends pushing you happened to me literally just the other day. This example is with my dad, which I know it's like, oh, he's not like a friend, but to me, he is my friend. And we go on runs together a lot. And what happened was, if you live in Texas, you know that it is 95 degrees and incredibly humid here. So I was dying on the run, quite frankly. I was having a very hard time. We were supposed to be running 4 miles. I was on the struggle bus, okay? And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Everyone has runs where they aren't feeling great. But I got to a point and I told my dad, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I have no energy. I'm literally just feeling horrible. But he said, no, slow down, but do not stop. And he ran the rest of the way with me, and he pushed me, and he didn't allow me to stop. He didn't allow me to fall to my own emotions, because ultimately it was my emotions that were like, you can't do this. And it was my brain that was saying that, but that wasn't the truth. I could do it, and he had to remind me of the truth. And I think good friends do that. Good friends remind you of the truth when you forget it yourself. When you're feeling insecure and you're feeling really down on yourself, good friends will remind you exactly who you are. They will lift your spirits when you don't feel like it. They will be there for you when you can't even be there for yourself. That is a good friend. And good friends are hard to find. They really are. And I think a lot of people have been hurt by friendships, me included. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, because as humans, we're constantly miscommunicating. We are never on the same wavelength. Everyone is always just hurting each other's feelings. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, because there may be a relationship in your life where you just got your feelings hurt and you don't want to open back up again to anyone. Maybe your best friend ghosted you or found a new best friend and it really hurts you. Maybe you had a romantic partner and it didn't work out and it hurt you and you don't want to open back up again. But I just want to encourage you, because just because someone couldn't see your worth or didn't show that well doesn't mean that someone else can't, because there is somebody for everybody. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I also believe that there are people out there that you haven't met yet that will love you. And I saw this on Pinterest of like, you have not met all of the people that will love you. And that's encouraging, because it's like, there are more people who you're going to meet, and they're going to love everything about you, and they are going to see the value in you. It doesn't matter if other people haven't seen that, they will. And that's so important. Don't let a relationship or a friendship that you had, don't let that define you. Don't be closed off to your future relationships or friendships because of fear of the past. Don't let that hold you back, because God has an interesting way of, closing some doors and opening much better doors. And I know it's hard. It can be hard when you have trust issues and you don't believe that you're lovable or you've been made to feel like that, I know it can be so hard to open up again, but I promise you that there are people who will see the value in you. There are people, and you are so valuable. And I'm so sorry if you don't feel like that right now, or you've ever felt like you aren't valuable, because you're made in God's image ultimately, and His grace is new every morning, and He looks at you and He is proud and He loves you, and He wouldn't change anything about you. He loves exactly who you are, and He created people who will also be able to love you exactly as you are. And it may take time. It may take more time than you want it to, but you can find people who will love you, and it will change your life. And it's changed my life. Like, I have had times where I felt really lonely, and I felt like there was no one who was gonna love me or wanna be my friend or anything like that, but then God brings in blessings when you're patient and when you're not trying to force it as well, because I think it's hard for a lot of people because they don't want to be lonely. They don't wanna have no friends, but really, it's better to be alone than in bad company, and I will die on that hill, because when you're alone, you can't be drained by anything, at least, and bad company will drain you. And it's better to spend that time alone and learn how to be by yourself and learn to love yourself and then meet the right people than to surround yourself with a bunch of people who do not see your value and do not love you in the manner that you deserve to be loved in. It's not worth it. You need to be hanging around people who make you feel valuable and make you feel loved and supported, and 3 verses come to mind when I think of that. One of them is, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I think it's important. Like, friends are meant to sharpen each other. We are meant to push each other towards our best self. We're not meant to be dragging each other down, and we are meant to feed off of each other. And it's important to find people who are willing not only to keep you accountable, but also to support you and to be there for you and to help you grow, because it's really hard to grow when you're with the wrong person, when you're in the wrong environment. And if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are not wanting to grow in the same way that you are, it's really, really hard to grow. You need to be surrounded by people who want the same thing as you and are wanting to grow with you and push you. And another verse that comes to mind is, 2 is better than 1. Because if one man falls, the other can help him up. It's exactly what I was explaining with the example of me and my dad running. Like, I was at a point where I had no strength left. I was falling, metaphorically, of course. I didn't actually fall. But there are times when we're all gonna fall, but it's like, who around you is going to pick you up and carry you until you have the strength again? Good friends will not just leave you in the dust. They aren't, when times get hard, they aren't just gonna, you fell anyways, I'll see you later. It's like, good friends are gonna look at you, help you up, and give you the strength until you have the strength on your own again. And the same thing will go vice versa. If they fall down, you need to be that friend to them as well. When they need help, you should be their help. And that comes to the last verse that I had in mind. God tells us that we must carry each other's burdens. We aren't meant to carry the burdens alone. We're meant to be surrounded by community. We're meant to hold each other up and give each other the strength that we can't find alone. And I just think that's so important. And the wrong people are not going to do that for you. And the wrong people will prove to you over and over again that they aren't willing to do that. If they're not willing to go through the hard times, then they don't deserve to go through the good times with you. It's important to find friends who are worth your time and who aren't going to just leave when it gets hard. Good friends stick around and they push each other, and it's important. And I think that it's also nice to remember, like, I know it's corny, but people are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And it makes me laugh every time I hear it, because it's just like obvious, but it's true. It's so true. Not everyone that comes into your life is meant to be here forever. Some people are in your life so that they can hurt you and you can learn from it, and you can be a better friend to other people because of it. Some people are in your life for a specific season. Maybe you're going through something and they are meant to be in your life while you grow through that and learn through that. But then, you guys are going to go separate ways. That's okay. And then some people are going to dig into the friendship and they're going to be with you for the rest of your life. And, friendships like that, you need to be on the lookout for. When you make a friend, that's something to examine. Is this someone who I could see myself growing with and continuing a friendship with for the rest of my life? And there's not going to be many of those. So if you're like, oh yeah, every single one of my friends is going to be a lifelong friend, like, no, probably not, because lifelong friends are really hard to find, but they're out there. You just have to look, and you have to also be that friend for other people, because, if you're not that friend for other people, then how's a friendship gonna last a lifetime if you aren't a good friend to them? They're eventually gonna examine the friendship and be like, you aren't the right one. We need to be constantly evolving and forming ourselves to be the friend that we want to be. And I think ultimately, if we become the friend that we want for ourselves, we will attract those people. And we'll attract people who push us and make us better versions of ourselves. And that is so worth it. And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you're going to have to go through a season where you're just alone and it feels lonely, and you don't have that support, and it's going to be hard, but everything God does works for good, and He's got you, and He's got people lined up to meet you that are going to love you and value you and see your worth and remind you of it. I think sometimes in life we forget our own worth and we start to believe the enemy. We start to think, oh yeah, no one likes me because I'm worthless. I don't have anything to offer. But then God will send someone who reminds us of our worth and proves to us that we're not unlovable. No one in this world is unlovable, and I truly believe that. I believe we are all capable of being loved, and we're all easy to love for someone. Maybe you're hard to love for the wrong person, but the right person will love you easily because you are not too hard to be loved. Everyone has a person. And if you're in a relationship or friendship where you feel like that, you feel like, I just am too hard to love, like I demand too much or something like that, someone will be able to meet your expectations. Someone of a friendship or a relationship. Someone will find it easy to love you. And I think that's so refreshing and important to remember, because whenever we go through these bad relationships and we just feel horrible and we feel unlovable and we feel like, maybe we wanted that person to last for a lifetime, but they're only in it for a season or a reason. It's like we get in this mindset that no one will ever love us that much and we're useless without them, but that is not the case. And we're deserving of love with that person or without them. And yes, that relationship might have hurt you, and it's okay to feel hurt, but there's better coming. God is working. When He closes one door, He's opening a new door for you. And that's what I kind of just try to remind myself, like, He has so much planned for my life that I could not even begin to comprehend for myself. He has people lined up in my life that I will meet that will surpass all of my expectations. And He also has me line up to meet them so that I can surpass all of their expectations as well. It's like God can bring people together like that, and He's just so good, and I see Him working constantly, and He's a good God. And I just encourage you, if you're struggling, to just lean on Him, because He will show up. He is near to the brokenhearted, and He saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. So just, if you're feeling crushed, if you're feeling lonely, like, come to Him, be patient, rest in Him, and He will provide. He always does. And I know it's hard to be patient because we have this timeline in our heads. Oh, I need to meet the love of my life by 18, get married by 20, have kids by 22. Like, we have these timelines in our lives, but ultimately God's plan rules, and He may have something, well, not may, He has something that is so incredibly good for your life. He has a much greater plan for your life that you can't even begin to imagine. And it's beautiful. And I love just reminding myself that whenever I am just going through a hard time, it's like this is leading me to something better. And just remember that and surround yourself by people who will remind you of these facts, who will speak life over you, and who fill your cup instead of draining it. It makes a difference. And I promise you that it will make a difference in your life. I encourage you to just examine your friendships. Examine how you feel when you're with that friend or that partner, and then see how you feel after you're with them. If you go home and you feel drained, that's not the right person for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say. The right person will not drain you. Be intentional about the people you're spending time with. Your time is valuable, and you don't want to give your time to anyone. It's important that we protect our own peace, and sometimes we have to put ourselves first, and we have to turn down those plans if they're not going to fill us with joy and they're not going to fill our cup and they're going to drain us or, push us in the wrong way. If they're bad influences, maybe we need to take a step back, and that's okay. They're not bad people for disagreeing with you, but that doesn't mean that you need to keep surrounding yourself by them. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I have. It's been interesting, but I kind of do like the more chill vibes in the car. I also like holding up my microphone because I feel like I talk with my hands a lot, but when I'm holding the microphone, I feel like I don't talk with my hands a lot, which is kind of nice, but I don't know. Maybe I do. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please follow, share with anyone who you feel like would enjoy this episode as well. I can't wait to see you guys again next week, and that is the scoop.